do that. Yeah, let's do. Hello,
All right.
welcome to the Cinebums.
That's how we are starting an episode from now on. There we go. But yeah, like we're doing a segment today that is one of our favorites. We've been doing it for a long time and haven't done it in a while because we've been doing all these lists for some reason. Like we've done like over five lists, like I swear, in a row. And I always thought after every list episode that we weren't going to do another one, but we always managed to do another one. Yeah, but today it's it's not going to be that. It's going to be more laid back, more like our movie journaling. And as we were talking about before, like I've talked about before with John, I have been very much at home a lot this past month, and I've definitely canceled some plans. And in turn, the Letterboxd numbers have they have gone up for sure, and I'm happy with it. I'm happy to feel immersed in movies lately. Yeah.
I think I've watched some great stuff lately, so I'm excited to get into that and seeing. I've really started to get some momentum on 2022 watches too, which I think you've seen everything that I've seen just about. So
nice.
Yeah,
and I think I'm gonna go like not just this last month too. Like in the past, I'm gonna pick and choose in the past few months, and so that will give you more that'll give yourself some more movies to pick from.
I like it. I'll do the same.
Okay, I'm gonna actually start way back in February with a little movie.
That's around where I'm gonna start too.
Perfect. A movie called The Big Year, which is starring Owen Wilson, Jack Black, and Steve Martin.
Ooh,
in a movie that I don't know if I heard much of anything at all about when it came out, but
I've seen the poster. This is on my watch list. Yeah.
I
saw that I know I've heard of this. Yeah. Oh man, John Cleese too, and Rosamund Pike and Kevin Pollak, Joel McHale.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, Rosamund Pike. Joel McHale. I don't remember who John Cleese is in it, but
Jim Parsons and Rashida Jones, Tim Blake Nelson,
Rashida Jones,
Houston,
Anthony Anderson, Al Roker,
This is nuts.
This is a star-studded cast of a movie that probably 12 people have seen since it's come out.
But I still could tell it's probably not that good.
No, it's not that good. But so anyway, it's a birding movie. It's about Owen Wilson is basically this like champion birder, and he's not really into it for the birds. He's just wants the glamour and the fame that comes with winning this birding competition every year, which I forget what it's called, but it's you basically see like all the birds and like registered with the Audubon, something like that. And then there's Jack Black and Steve Martin, who are both sort of like, I don't know, just mopey guys, not really super happy with their lives. And so they decide to take on this trek for a year and just see all the birds that they can. I think it may just be identify as many birds as possible in a year. So they both decide to do this, and then eventually they meet up and become kindred spirits. And it's not a very good movie.
Sounds fun.
And a lot of the humor doesn't really land, but it's just kind of it's a nice watch too. And
the fact that it got made, it's a birding movie.
This birding movie with this kind of cast, and there's a lot of just great like montages where they're like running around trying to catch all these birds and everything. And there's just like some music, some nice like indie rock from like this time playing, and it's a nice relaxing chill movie. You're not going to be blown away by anything, but I think it's definitely worth a watch. And Owen Wilson is pretty funny as a
birder.
As this birder guy who's just sort of like an asshole, and he's in it for all the glory, even though it's just birding. But
him and Steve Martin, I can see as birders for sure. Jack
Mhm.
Black, not quite as much, but I could see that being like funny, like him going for that type of
Yeah,
role.
I can't remember. So I think Steve Martin's character, he really does enjoy birding. And he's just like retiring from his job, so he decides to do this huge trip. And I don't think Jack Black was into it, but he just decided to do it to shake up his life. So maybe that's a good casting choice then. If
Right,
doesn't
right,
seem like
right.
he'd be a birder, but
I'm
his
sick of
character doesn't.
working in this record store or whatever the
Yeah,
hell
yeah,
he's doing.
yeah. It's definitely something like that. Yeah, typical Jack Black. But yeah, I
I
would
forgot.
recommend it.
Was Jack Black in he's in Cable Guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
He's
not imagining that.
no, he's
What is
Matthew
he playing
Broderick's
that?
friend. Yeah, he was like Matthew Broderick's
Okay. He
friend, I
plays the
think.
friend. Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I think that
I
was
just
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought of that for some reason. I don't know why. Like, thought like, what job does he have in Cable Guy? That's really
Oh
it.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I would watch this for sure. I don't.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I would throw on, uh, out of the blue.
Yeah. You can't be disappointed. It's just a very easy, no
Yeah.
stakes movie. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've grown to really like appreciate Owen Wilson more lately. Um, Especially with that Marry Me movie this year that I thought he
Yeah.
like really was good in, like just as the innocent dad guy character
Yeah.
who lives a simple New York life and doesn't know technology. And I thought he pulls that off really well. Like he pulls off the nerdy stuff really well, like better, definitely better than when he's playing like a like ladies man dick,
Yeah. Yeah.
more
Yeah.
so. But like I still enjoy that too. I feel like he's good at that in his own way, but like I prefer, yeah, like him being like a dad and like Marry Me, where he's just, like almost midwestern and out of touch and just very nice and
Yeah.
wholesome.
A little more endearing. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Because like in like say Wedding Crashers or something like that, he's just such a like an unlikable guy.
Douchebag. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. In a lot of movies, he's like that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But he pulls it off in his own Owen Wilson-esque ways.
And I think
Yeah,
Vince
he's
Vaughn is similar. He's like a dick in a
yeah.
lot of movies too. And some movies, he's like the nicest guy ever, and you just love him. So it's yeah, a lot of people do that.
Yeah, yeah. They can be broy, but they can also be, and they can also be nice, wholesome guys too.
All
But he's
right, yeah.
definitely he's
So
definitely an asshole in the big year. So yeah, that's not
okay,
the
I'll keep
wholesome
that in
Owen
mind.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good
All
to
right,
know.
that's the big year.
All right, I'm gonna start back in February also, and I'm starting with documentary, George Harrison, Living in the Material World. Um,
Nice.
After watching the Beatles Get Back documentary for the second time, I decided to watch this. And I'm gonna, I'm planning on slowly but surely going through all their like movies and whatnot, um,
Mm,
to just continue to feed the Beatles obsession that is always around. It can pop up any day for me. I've learned,
you gotta
and
feed
so
it.
that's definitely what the George Harrison documentary did. I was like, this is just more of an excuse to love the Beatles and listen to the
Yeah.
Beatles every day, and like this documentary is really something else and very intense and good, and it was one I've wanted to see for like probably 10 years now, and I finally did it one day, like like took, it's a long one, it's like a
Yeah.
two-parter, right? But yeah, it's really really good, and it's hard to like um not see him as like one of the more special Beatles, if not the most special, after just because he has that documentary based. I think that's like probably fuels all the guys who are like all about Harrison. Like there's all those guys where they religiously about him, and then they like hate Paul McCartney and shit and shit like that. And then like it's because they love, like documentaries like this,
Yeah. What do you curious who your favorite Beatle is, if you have one?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, because I'm so heavily influenced off the documentary. Like, I definitely was watching the documentary, and I would just be like in awe of like John Lennon, like all the time.
Yeah.
I would always just be like, oh my god, like this guy's he's like sent down from like heaven. This guy, like he's just not a real person. But then I'd like watch like Paul, and Paul's just like incredible and like the showman, and he's like also creatively organizing everything when like the other two Beatles are all just like sitting there like going like being hippies and acting like it's all gonna work out. And yeah, it's really tough to say. And I think I'm like equally, like maybe not 100% equally like into all of them, but I will say that I like them all a lot. Like I don't heavily favor like one necessarily over the other. But like there are like I do notice some of my favorite Beatles songs are usually songs where it's like a John song, I think.
I'm the same exact way. I'd say I favor John and George a little more.
Yeah, I do too.
But yeah, and the interesting thing about like well anyway, I also identify with the John songs. Like when I have a full, when I listen to like a Beatles playlist, I'm skipping past some of the Paul like bouncy little like pretty songs and going more to the John songs.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people are too. Yeah, like Don't Let Me Down is like I'm in that phase where I think Don't Let Me Down is like my favorite song or like the greatest song ever made. Like I used to think that about like The End by The Doors. Like I was like when I was into Apocalypse Now, I was like very convinced like The End by The Doors is like the greatest song. But right now I'm very much like all about Don't Let Me Down. Like like I've been obsessed with that. Like I can't get enough of it. And that's that's John's song, and like but I also, I do like to know that I like to understand like how they collectively complement each other as well. I think that's very important. I think the doc definitely shows that, and I think it just helps you understand like, oh, this is like why like John and Paul are so good together, their contrasts and how they sing and blah blah blah, and like and just the fact that they all sing and that they're all able to like work together, it makes them like the best band is because they do that. And then George's guitar riffs that he's always doing, that like because like John sing, he like screams "Don't Let Me Down," and then it's like George follows right by like George's guitar riff, and that's like that's the magic of of Don't Let Me Down.
It's definitely it's a collective thing. It's just I don't know, there's such like a special thing that like doesn't happen all that often, is I don't know, something like them.
Yeah, and it's funny that, and it's cool, I mean, that you get to like go back and forth and you're like, oh, now this is like a George, like this is like one of the 2 or 3 George songs of the album that we just got to, and he does, and because they're very different usually, I think George's songs, especially like compared to a Paul song, it's very very different. But like I love I've Got a Feeling too. Like I usually follow it up with like After Don't Let Me Down. It's like and I've got I've got a feeling you can't deny like it's one of those songs you can't deny that Paul was like amazing as well. So
Yeah,
that's like what I would say to any like Paul haters that are really out there, is that Paul has some bangers for sure, and you can't like take away his like just his having his voice at least as a side vocal in every song.
Oh yeah.
And the documentary does talk about, it goes into how like John and Paul like wrote all the songs, especially at first.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely he wrote more and more songs, and then it shows that like, and I remember a specific part in Get Back where George is talking to John, and he was just talking about how he had like he just has so many songs like in his head like endlessly. And John, and he's like, I really think I could record an album, maybe two. And John's like, yeah, you should go for it. You know, and that's kind of like what, you know, like, yeah, it's exactly what you're saying, like little things like that. And I think John Lennon was definitely a little more like definitely laid back and also supportive of like just George maybe being his own thing. Like John was more about letting things be, and like Paul was very controlling, and you could definitely say that's like what, you know, like what impacted like George leaving eventually.
George not really being able to like, I don't know, live up to his potential within this group because he felt like he couldn't get a word in edgewise, you know, he couldn't get his songs on. It's like the youngest child trying to get attention so desperately.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison, especially since they like grew up together and were so you know, young that whole way through, and grew up off each other.
And then Paul, you know, is like the controlling older brother who he even like always says in interviews. Paul always says the same things. He's always like, well, George was like a baby brother. Like he always calls him like his baby brother. And it's like, do you think, I bet he probably hated always being called Paul McCartney's baby brother when he's what, a year younger than him or something. So
right.
What do you mean, baby brother?
It's kind of more so, like, and it's also like a confidence thing. Like George came into his own later, pretty much. And so this documentary, it was just like so worth it, and definitely made me like, you know, think a lot about life during that long span, and got me in a real like cool, like, I don't know, spiritual and creative mood afterwards. And it's really good. I'm rattling off those Scorsese documentaries. Actually, I'll quickly bring this up before I hand it back to one of your movies. I also watched the Last Waltz in the last month,
so
and
good.
that is very good. Very different, but it reminded me of like. Actually, no, it didn't remind me of anything. I was about to try to compare it. It doesn't really remind me of anything. But it is like just so incredible how many guys are on stage. And then the band, like speaking of like bands with multiple singers and talents, like, oh my God, these guys have it. They don't lack that, that's for sure.
Amazing. Yeah. Bob Dylan said it was like they were the greatest band in the world or whatever, and they're literally just mainly a backing band. But it's
crazy.
And
actually there's this funny, tell me if you didn't notice this or didn't think of it. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't, but when Bob Dylan is performing with the band, he very much looks like Adam Sandler or something like that. Like for some reason, like Adam Sandler. I did not think that. Like Adam Sandler is playing Bob Dylan or something like that, and I thought it was fucking hilarious. Look up a picture of it if you can and see if you see what I mean. But
I'm gonna do that now.
And maybe Jake, you could put. I actually brought this up to Jake, our producer Jake, when we were hiking one day, and if you could find the picture and bring it up now.
Yeah, I'm looking now. He does. He looks like an Adam Sandler
right
character.
You see what I mean? And I thought that was hilarious. But yes, The Last Waltz is also very good. So trying to get through all those Scorsese documentaries because I am a definite fan. One of my criterions is Scorsese shorts and documentaries, and then like you and I both watched like Pretend It's a City and stuff like that. And you've seen,
Yep.
haven't you seen like Italian American and
Yep.
all that stuff too?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So you and I are both going down that rabbit hole, but it's fun because they're good. They're all
Oh yeah.
very high quality documentaries.
Yeah, Scorsese docs are underrated just because they're not as talked about as, all those narrative
Right.
movies. But I watched The Handmaiden by Park Chan-wook, who also he's done Old Boy, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, a few others. Old Boy is definitely his biggest. But yes, I caught The Handmaiden, which I'm going to read this plot summary because there's like I said, a lot going on, and I know that I'd butcher it if I try to quickly recap it. But this is a period piece in 1930s Korea, and this woman is hired as a handmaiden to a Japanese heiress, and it's often the countryside. It's very secluded, but really the maid was recruited by this basically hired by him to seduce the heiress to I guess fall in love with him and then take all her money because she was gonna once she inherits all this money. But anyway, it takes so many twists and turns from there.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to set it up a little bit, but that's like the premise. But
Right.
it gets fairly wild from there, and yeah, I really loved it. It's just one of these movies that partway through I knew that I was really gonna love this, and it like stuck the landing at the end too, I thought. So yeah, it's
Nice.
like just like Old Boy, it's another great like revenge movie, and it definitely takes some turns that I was not expecting. So yeah, really recommend The Handmaid.
I unfortunately haven't seen Old Boy. I know that's like one of the most
Oh wow.
well-regarded movies there is. So,
I would have assumed you've seen it. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
that's
shocked.
one of those where I'm like, damn, I've been trying to get to that since the beginning of the trying to see all the movies days, and it's just slipped under.
Yeah, that's a must watch. That and this, I would say.
Yeah, I know a lot of people revere Park Chan-wook in like a way that's like, like a Bong Joon-ho type of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've only seen this, Old Boy, and then Stoker, which was another movie he made, which is like a remake of Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt. So
Nice.
yeah, I think that was, if not one of his only English speaking movies. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got for The Handmaiden.
Okay. I'm going to go with I did 2 movies last time. I'm going to do 2 movies again.
Let's do it.
Because they're related as well. So I still don't use my Criterion Collection subscription as much as I should. I'm bordering on like, oh man, like you're barely using it enough to say it's worth it, but also I kind of am. But there's this one like thing I've gotten into recently, and it's like the early it's like a collection called Early John Ford. And I started just watching those. I've wanted to dive back into like the old guys, like all the like classic Hollywood directors, and who is more of a classic Hollywood, well-regarded classic Hollywood filmmaker than John Ford?
True, yeah.
And I really haven't seen a ton of his movies. I've seen Stagecoach, obviously, and The Searchers, and I don't think like I've seen How Green Was My Valley, and I think outside of that, I hadn't seen any. And so I will say, like, right off the bat, that I loved both of these early John Ford movies a lot. And I would highly recommend, if you ever can come across them, to check them out. I started them both with like, you know, I watched them both with my coffee to start the day, and I couldn't think of a better way to start the day, because they were both
Nice.
such like wholesome classic American movies. The first one being a film called Tobacco Road. I think I shared it with you.
Yeah, you texted me about this one.
Yeah. Basically revolves around a like an old like couple who owns this tobacco farm. It's been in the family for a long time, and you know, they're not like able to harvest anything. They're running out of money. The bank's gonna like buy the property, and they're all like, you can't do this. We've been here for years. We found the land. My great great grandfather found the land. And it's like really sad, you know, like that, one of those sad things. But it ends up being very it's very funny at the same time. The main character, Jeter Lester, who's, I believe, played by Charlie Grapewin, who is also in The Wizard of Oz, The Grapes of Wrath, Captain Courageous, which I believe I've seen. Let's see who he plays in The Wizard of Oz. I'm on Letterboxd. They don't show that stuff right away, like who he played. I believe he played one of the guys on the farm, because he has, yeah, I think he's the uncle.
Uncle Henry. Yeah.
Uncle Henry, yes. So he is fantastic in this movie. He's so funny. He's one of those types of actors who was only like an old white dude who speaks all like this, and like they were in abundance back then, you know, like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's one of the really good ones, and he's not only, he's very funny in this, and he's also just very innocent, you know, clearly comes from like very humble roots and has lived a very humble life, and you just can't help but like rooting for him to come up with the money to save the farm. And I think it's like funny, because he's always like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to come up with the rent of like $50 for the year or something like that. Like, it's like something like that, you know, like, the rent is $50 for the year. How are we going to come up with that kind of money?
Oh my god!
But yeah, like I really enjoyed it. Like, I don't know, it sounds like a really like basic like old movie in a way, but it's like really well done. Like, it, you know, it has the Ford touch. It's really good. And I think anyone, like, someone who's not into old films at all, if you turn it on, they are out of it right of the way. They are out of the question. There's no way they're into it. But I think if you're into old films, like, you'll enjoy it. I think for sure it'll be like you'll take to it. That's one of two.
Okay. Yeah.
The other one is also really good. It's called Young Mr. Lincoln, which where he's played by a young Abraham Lincoln is played by Henry Fonda, and he's really good. And it feels like a movie that they would show us in school as a kid in like history class or something like that. But don't let that defer you. This is very good as well, and it is also very wholesome, old school American touch, just all the old school American themes. And Henry Fonda really knocks this performance out of the park, for sure. I would not make this claim without rewatching Spielberg's Daniel Day-Lewis Lincoln in order to compare the movies, but I will definitely say this film is far less boring than the Spielberg Lincoln. I will not say that Fonda is better in the movie necessarily than Daniel Day-Lewis is as Lincoln, but I will say Henry Fonda is very good. Yeah, and it like, yeah, it's weird. It made me feel like being a kid again watching it. I don't know. I liked it a lot. But yeah, that's my John Ford special.
John Ford double doozy. All right. Okay. All right. The next one I'm gonna go with is probably honestly a new favorite of mine, and I would say it might even be. I'll need to watch it again, but it might be my favorite Tom Hanks performance too. And it's yeah, that's saying a lot. And I'm definitely it's definitely recency bias, but I had a great time with this movie, and it's Joe versus the Volcano.
I have never seen this.
Yeah, and I hadn't heard of this movie until maybe like 4 years ago or so. I had no idea what this movie was. I didn't know it existed.
Oh, another Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan join. Oh my God.
And
I have
fun
to
fact.
watch this now.
It's definitely the best in my opinion of
all three, huh?
Yeah, Joe versus the Volcano was recommended to me by my therapist like 4 years ago while just talking about jobs and stuff, and I finally got around to it, and now I realize man, he was worth every penny of that insurance money. So yeah, Joe versus the Volcano. It's the premise is pretty basic on the surface. It's basically Tom Hanks has this job where he works at like this rectal probe factory, and I should also state that they're in like New York, but it's like a fictional New York. Like things are very goofy and wacky, and this is very much like it came out in 1990. It's definitely like an early 90s, late 80s type of movie with the really unique production design. Like it's a tamed down like Tim Burton.
Right, that's what
New York
it
in a
looks
way.
like on the Letterboxd background. I'm like seeing the set. It looks like a Tim Burton.
Yeah, even the Volcano set is definitely very much Tim Burton-esque. But so yeah, it starts out he hates his job. He works at this rectal probe factory. His boss sucks. And Meg Ryan also works there. Meg Ryan plays 3 different characters, I think, and she's great at all of them. I think this made me realize I didn't realize how great of a comedic actor that Meg Ryan really is. So yeah, gained some appreciation for her, but he's just always sick all the time and miserable, and everything's very drab and dreary, and he goes to the doctor and finds out he has this thing called brain fog, and it has no symptoms, but he's going to die in 6 months.
I can relate to having brain fog.
Yeah. It's a perfect COVID movie because the brain fog is just it's very much a relatable thing now. And so he finds out he has 6 months to live, and I think he gets emotional about it at first, and then but he comes to accept it pretty fast, and he goes and quits his job.
It's like a live it up time, pretty much.
Yeah. He asks out the girl he wants to ask out. He starts doing all these, he gets a driver to drive him around New York, and he goes on like a shopping spree and buys all these nice things. And then he stumbles upon this guy stumbles upon him. He's like this old white guy who I forget, he's like a biologist or some researcher or something, and he has done this work with his tribe on this remote island, and every 100 years this tribe has to perform a human sacrifice to appease their volcano god. And this is like the first time that nobody wants to do it. None of them want to volunteer to sacrifice themselves. It's kind of like they've grown enough to think that why would we do that? That sounds awful. Yeah. So this guy proposes that since Tom Hanks, Joe, has nothing to live for, that he do this for them. and
Right.
and he's like, fuck it, I'll do it, So Tom Hanks decides to do it, and then the rest of the movie he's on, he's still like living it up a little bit, and then going on this journey to do this, and it's just a great movie when I don't know, you just feel like you're in a rut and life doesn't have much meaning, and yeah, you want to it's just a feel good movie in the end, even though it seems like it's about something dark. Just Tom Hanks, you can see him start to grow more of an appreciation for life during it, and yeah, it's I don't know, I just really loved it. Something about it just really stuck with me. And yeah, it's definitely a new favorite of mine, and it was directed by John Patrick Shanley, who he hasn't directed a whole lot, but he wrote Moonstruck, which we talked about
Yeah.
last episode, for Nick Cage. He also wrote
Yeah. Okay, that's where I
Doubt.
recognize that from.
Yeah, and he also wrote the movie Congo, which is a really weird, awful movie, like so bad it's good movie from like the 80s. But yeah, but Joe versus the Volcano, it's I don't know, it's so funny and also touching, and the production design is so great. It's like, yeah, it's almost like a sci-fi comedy in a way. But
Yeah. You had me
yeah,
at Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan because I was like, oh man, I
yeah,
got to see everything they did together,
yeah. And this one's
and
so
like
much different than
yeah,
the
it
other
sounds
ones too.
different, but also like of high quality. Like the other ones are like You've Got Mail is like a very like flawed movie, but I also do think it's like also weirdly a quality movie, if you know what I mean. Like how
Yeah,
like a Nancy Meyers movie is like always weird, but like quality at the same
yeah,
time.
totally.
You're getting
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that all right, I'm definitely checking that out. Like
yeah. HBO
I
Max.
can
Yeah,
all right, perfect. Um, that's a great segue for my next film, um, because I saw Speed at the New Beverly Theater, which was awesome one day,
nice.
and because of that, it inspired me last like Thursday to watch another film with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. Except this one is made like 12 years later. Um, Speed is 94, 1994. The Lake House is 2006. Yeah, so I watched The Lake House with
Wow.
Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, and I will also say The Lake House is a very different film from Speed, if you can believe it. Um, so The Lake House features Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves in Chicago. Sandra Bullock is in like an ER doctor, whatever those types of doctors are called, like an ER doctor.
Yeah, that might be what they're
Is
called.
there a specific name for them? Yeah,
Maybe ER doctor. Yeah, I don't.
yeah. Uh,
I don't know.
we don't have any ER doctors out there listening to
Yeah.
ER.
Write to us, let us know. Yeah.
um, and Keanu is like an architect, which is hilarious. Keanu Reeves is an architect in Chicago. Like you can't beat that. And he like talks about he's like, I love creating buildings and seeing them as my own expression. Like just gets all like pretentious about it and stuff. But here's the main trick of this rom-com. Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, triggered by the fact that Keanu Reeves has just I might be mixing this. I should look at it to like so I don't mix up the plot.
Yeah, are you
But
confusing Speed and the Lake House, the
no,
plots?
I'm not. Um, okay, okay. So yeah, Keanu Reeves buys the lake house that Sandra Bullock used to live in,
Okay.
And now it like triggers the fact that they can communicate like 2 years apart, like telepathically, basically. Yeah. So, well,
Interesting.
so no, like, all right, not telepathic. Oh God, I'm fucking. It's not telepathically, but it makes you feel like it because there's constant voiceover of them like talking back and forth. But it's really letters that they're sending to each other through time. But sometimes you're like, wait, how are they sending letters? Like she's saying like one word answers, like it's like a, like a IM or something like that, because it's, of course it's 2006, or a text. Like he'll be like, "Are you there?" And she'll be like, "Yes." But it's like they're sending letters. Who does that in a letter? So that's kind of why it gives that telepathic vibe
Yeah.
to it. If there's any Lake House nerds out there, I do not want to be, condemned for getting this part of the plot wrong. But yeah, so they're like always talking to each other, like writing to each other and talking about their problems. And there's a lot of scenes of them just like Keanu like walking through Millennium Park and looking like he doesn't know the meaning of life. And he's like, you hear some voiceover of him saying this to Sandra Bullock, going like, sometimes I feel empty in life or something like that. And so they're both like kind of getting out their some of like their problems and maybe some of their existential angst with each other through these letters. And it's very weird. It's very bizarre. And and eventually like he meets her, but it's not like it's the her of his time. So it's not like the conscious version of her that like who knows about him and he's talking to, but yet they still have a connection. So there's like a love scene where they're dancing and stuff. And then eventually somehow they're able to like blend the times to where like he catches up to her or something, and then they finally decide to meet. And then the movie ends with them like basically like living happily ever after in the lake house. Like the final
Spoiler
shot
alert.
is the final shot is them like walking like with their like arms around each other towards the lake house, and it's like the lake house is like incredibly nice and stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a really like strange but also like kind of good and kind of mind-blowing movie that I like started my day with last week one day. And it was just really
Wow.
random and there was no way of expecting any of it. But I believe I watched it because it's one of the ones leaving HBO Max, or did just leave HBO Max in April.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. On the surface, it wouldn't seem like this is a movie like that.
Yeah,
It seems like a pretty
it's
basic
real.
rom-com from the outside
Yeah,
looking in.
it's not. It like tries to be very profound. It's really interesting.
I'll go with what I most recently watched, and it's a documentary. It just came out last year called Kurt Vonnegut Unstuck in Time, which was made by Robert Whitey, who is the director of Curb,
Oh
which is,
shit.
yeah. So anytime, even if you haven't watched Curb, if you've seen those memes where they play the Curb theme song and
Yeah, you'll
it
see
always
his
says
name.
directed by Robert Whitey. Yeah. So yeah, this was a documentary I've been wanting to watch because I only recently started to get into Kurt Vonnegut. And yeah, so he's I mean, anyone could attest to this who's looked up anything about him or read his books, but he's a pretty interesting guy. And this movie is basically Robert Whitey talking about how he started making this movie almost 40 years ago with Vonnegut, and over the years had filmed more and more things with him and become friends with him. And then and then Kurt Vonnegut passed away in 2007, and Robert Whitey had still never finished it, and he had started to work on Curb, and that was, his whole life. So he finally got around to finishing it now. And so if you're going in it expecting it to be just like a documentary solely on Kurt Vonnegut, it's not that. I mean, it's still heavily focused on him, and it's all about him, but it's more so even about just Robert Whitey and his relationship over the years of trying to make this movie. So it's almost like a behind the scenes type thing of we were planning on making this documentary, and then we ended up making a documentary about the documentary, kind of like Get Back, the Beatles documentary. Yeah. But anyway,
okay,
it's
cool.
Yeah. So I think I've seen some like negative comments about that, saying that it's like too much Robert Whitey, but and he even makes like the comment in the beginning that he hates when documentary directors insert them into the story. And then he does that. So he's trying to be like self-aware. And there are times where it seems very self-indulgent, but I think for the most part it's justified because they do so clearly have like a deep relationship and connection, just over the course of Vonnegut's later years, and Robert trying to make this documentary of he's like a super fan of Kurt Vonnegut. So it was like a dream come true to just meet him and try to make this movie about him. So yeah, I think for the most part it's justified having him be like a character in this story, adding some more context to what they were filming. And it definitely goes plenty into Kurt Vonnegut's life and his family and who he was as a person and how he changed too. So it's at times fairly by the books, basic documentary, but overall I enjoyed it. And it's definitely it has its funny moments too.
Cool.
So yeah, if you have any interest in Kurt Vonnegut, I'd say it's worth a watch.
Yeah, I definitely do. I also see Robert Whitey did a Woody Allen documentary, which seems up his alley also.
Yeah.
I also sadly haven't read a Kurt Vonnegut book yet.
So I'm reading Cat's Cradle right now, and last year I read Slaughterhouse-Five, but Slaughterhouse-Five is my first Vonnegut book that I've read. But besides that, I've just seen some like interviews and stuff with him, and he's also has some great like speaking engagements and stuff that he has on YouTube. So yeah, he's a really funny guy, just naturally funny. And Slaughterhouse-Five is a really funny and profound book at the same time too. So
he also did the documentary on Lenny Bruce, Robert White.
Oh wow.
So he's done very staple comedy things, that guy.
Yeah. Besides that, pretty much Curb is his big credit. But yeah, I'm fairly certain he's directed every single episode. So yeah.
How do I follow up the Lake House?
Oh man, yeah. That's a hard one to you almost should have closed the Lake House.
Right. You do your best, you do your closer last.
Yeah.
I've decided I'll close with 2022 movies. Well, the next movie I'll do is a movie that I've been recommended to watch for a long time now. I finally watched it on a random day. I watched the Lego Movie for the first time. Nice. And that's like, I know, I'm so late on the Lego Movie, but what? Fuck it.
Finally.
Right? Yeah, it took forever, man. But yeah, like I liked it a lot. I could see why everyone told me to watch it for so many years, and I thought it was like not only was the animation so awesome, but I thought like it was just very smart as well. And I loved like the stuff. I love how every single person is somebody. I love that. Like it's my favorite thing. If it's like that, oh my God, that's that guy. Like, like that's Charlie Day, like that's like Batman is
Will
who plays
Arnett.
Batman? Yeah, Will Arnett. Like,
Yeah.
and then Will Ferrell's, the Professor Business guy, and he's actually like a person at the end, and it's all his stuff in the video. I liked that too. I have really no complaints about the Lego movie at all.
Yeah.
So
I saw it a little bit after the initial hype about it, because obviously I think most people, including myself, when they saw it was coming out, thought it was just going to be some like real shitty, just like brand movie that was just like uh cheap product placement basically. And then everybody started to say how good it was, and I was a little worried that it was like it just didn't suck, and so that's why it seemed like it was good. So it was like exceeded everyone's expectations. But yeah, then when I saw it, I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I thought it was
yeah,
amazing.
I do
Yeah.
remember people raving about it a little bit and like being like, all right, well, there's no way it's that good. It's the Lego
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But that's yeah, last time we were talking about Lord and Miller, and I think Jake and
Right,
I were
right.
on the
Like,
same page. We were both really into them, and but yeah, having not seen the Lego movie, I would definitely understand why. Um, I don't know, maybe you wouldn't be as I don't know, concerned about Phil Lord and Chris Miller, but yeah, that got me hooked on. Made me want to see anything that those guys would make after that, and like Spider Verse,
yeah.
so great too, obviously, and um, now they've done a bunch of different projects too. But yeah, excited you got to the Lego movie.
Yeah. And I um especially thought Will Arnett as Batman was so funny. I just like
Yeah.
got such a kick out. I just got such a kick out of it.
Yeah, he's so great. Yeah. The Lego Batman movie they did with him.
Yeah,
Um
how is that?
that's pretty good too. It's not nearly on the same level
That's
as the
just
Lego
his
movie.
scenes in it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's
I
so
mean,
funny
does
in
it
the
get
Lego
old? Does
movie.
it? Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost like okay, maybe this was like
We didn't
he's
need a
best
whole
as a
movie
side
of this
character.
necessarily. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like the Chris Pratt guy, he's the perfect like main character,
Right.
straight man in this, and yeah. But there's still great funny moments in it too, just because Will Arnett's so great at doing that character.
Yeah,
It's
he's one of
just
the
so funny.
best voice like
Oh yeah.
actors there
Yeah.
is. I'm such a BoJack Horseman fan. I like
Me too.
when he was doing the Batman voice. It made me want to like rewatch BoJack Horseman.
Oh nice. I feel like we've never talked about BoJack before on here. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm
Yeah,
also a
love
big
BoJack.
BoJack fan. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that time where I was very immersed
Oh
in
yeah.
BoJack Horseman every day, and I was also not going anywhere, and I was drinking and eating a lot, just like BoJack Horseman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was perfect.
Yeah. That's the perfect show to watch when you're in that sort of state.
When you're really slumping, when
Yeah.
you're in an all-time slump, like definitely watch BoJack Horseman.
Those are the moments that I'm like, I should watch BoJack right now.
I
Yeah.
think I had like that was where my like my American male beer belly was at its like highest too. Like where I was really starting to like form it,
Hmm.
and like that's you might as well watch a horse with a beer belly at that point, like, and
Yeah.
laugh at all his jokes and whatnot.
Yeah. Depressed horse with a drinking problem. Yeah. That's
This is my hero,
yeah.
who I look up
Oh
to.
man. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's your hero in those moments. Yeah.
You're in a good place there. Oh, and just like the theme song is like coming back to and how good the theme song is, and The opening theme of BoJack is so great, and yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, Carly didn't watch that show with me, but she said she would always say like she liked when I watched that show and she was like in the other room because she could just hear the theme song, and yeah, it's a
over
great
and
song.
over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, 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 nah.
And just BoJack's face, going through like that whole montage. It's so great.
Yeah, like one of my favorite shows is also like a show with David Duchovny called Californication. Like I liked it. Like I liked it a lot in my like early 20s, and like it's just one of those that like, I've always enjoyed like revisiting. Like it was something like, yeah, it like. It's funny because like I'm saying that now I live in California. But when I first saw BoJack Horseman, I was like, oh, this is like a, cartoony, like goofy, trippier, like more creative Californication.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because like, it's just very self-loathing and all that.
Nice. Yeah, I know about Californication, but I've never.
Yeah, I know a lot of people know about it. I will. Yeah, it's very addicting, I will say. So if you ever decide to go down that road, it's very addicting. And it's very like it's very horny. It's like one of the horniest like things you can watch. But it's also got like a lot of heart like as well to make up for it, and like actual human values other than sex all the time. But like the sex is a lot of like the humor, and it's kind of fitting because it's in LA and everyone's like all the characters are like playing along with like that the town is like a lot of like piece of shit superficial like drug addicts and stuff like that. Like Rob Lowe plays like maybe one of his finest characters in Californication, I think. He's really good.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, that was the Lego
movie. That's the Lego movie. Somehow we went from the Lego movie to Californication. All right. Well, you know what? On that note, I think I'm going to. We've talked about shows every now and then on our Bender episodes, right?
Sure.
I thought we have. But anyway, I'm just gonna briefly mention a show, and just because it was just one season so far, the whole season's out. But I don't know if you've watched Severance at all.
No.
Yeah, I watched Severance in April. Watched all through it. I think there's just 9 episodes.
I did want to watch Severance. I just forgot about it, and yeah, wow, I did want to watch Severance.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, it's so it's starring Adam Scott and John Turturro, and Patricia Arquette. And most of the episodes, I would say all the best episodes are directed by Ben Stiller, too. So he's not the creator of the show, but he's sort of the driving force behind it. It's basically about these people who they want to separate their home life from their work life for whatever reason, and Adam Scott, this isn't any spoilers because it's right in the beginning, this is set up for his character, but he decides to do this program because in the real world, his wife died tragically, and he's incredibly depressed about it, and it's affecting every part of his life. So he wants to separate his work life, and so he doesn't have to think of that while he's at work and every day. So it's his way to cope. And the Severance program, they implant something into you, and then you have no recollection or memory of who you are in the outside world while you're at work. And then
that's crazy.
Yeah. And then when you go home, you have no recollection or memory of what your work life is like. So as you can imagine, it's a little, that's a crazy thing to happen.
Insane premise. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you can imagine, there's some secrets underneath the whole the whole thing. And I think I think the first season was great. There was a little bit of a dip partway through where I felt like it wasn't moving along very fast, and then all of a sudden it just really hits it off. And then looking back, I realized I think it needed more of that setup for how just crazy and in depth this premise is. And I really recommend it. There's going to be a second season that comes out, and I think they ended the first season on a great note that left a lot to look forward to in a second season. So it's almost like you think that it should have given you more information, but then you realize like had they given you more information, there would be no reason for a second season to continue the story going. So I think it ended on a really good note, and I'm super excited to. This is like the only show that's going on currently that I'm like looking forward to new episodes, I think. And it's just because I haven't caught a lot of newer shows as they come out recently. So Severance.
Yeah, when this trailer came, I definitely wanted to see this. I just forgot about it. But that sounds crazy. Because I can relate, like, during my now many jobs over the years, like I've had this. This always happens. Like I get off after like a long day, and I go home and I like, try to relax as much as much as possible. And I get high, I sit in front of the TV, I do whatever I want. But nevertheless, like my mind is always still like, can't stop thinking back about like what happened that day. And I'll find myself like, I don't know, going to bed and like images of like the people who I work with just keep coming up. And I'll be like, I wonder what that guy's deal is, or something like that. And I just find myself getting wrapped up in it. And so that I find that premise to be like kind of brilliant. It already sounds kind of brilliant.
Yeah, it's super interesting and unique. It feels, I don't know, it just felt so like fresh watching it too, like completely different than anything. Like, another show I've watched recently that was also a bit out there is like Squid Game, which has like it's the real world, but it has this extraordinary like scenario. But even that, I feel like the atmosphere of this is just on a whole different level. And it's such a great like tense thriller. And I would also I would relate it a bit like the Truman Show in a way. I'm trying to think of a good comparison.
Yeah,
like a very dark Truman Show. It's like there's people that are in on it and people that aren't.
Was a little like the Truman Show.
Oh, interesting.
Like how Professor they're all like, here's my expensive coffee and all that stuff. Like, like, we're happy to have our expensive coffee. Like they're all very like brainwashed in the Lego movie. Like it's very
everything is also
it's very adult like themes. Like they're basically saying the whole world here is brainwashed, and it's like that's what a lot of the humor is. Like, and he's kind of going through the clusterfuck city, and all through all the crowds, and I thought of the Truman Show for sure. So I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's a similar thing. Yeah. The bosses and management and everything, the second they see, it seems like people are, skeptical of anything. They jump right in and do like, let's have a dance party. We're doing like, they just try and, make them think that they're like working in the greatest place ever. It's, that's it's similar to the Lego movie that way, I guess too. I highly recommend.
We're connecting
Severance.
all the dots.
Bringing it all back.
It's similar hence to BoJack Horseman and Californication also. And
somehow we always have to bring
House,
it back to those. And the Lake House. And you know what it really reminded me of? Ringo Starr. No,
the way he functions in the band.
So yeah, that's all I got for Severance. But
So
strong
I
recommend.
actually have been paying attention to a lot of TV lately. I'm
It's good. I'm
very
jealous.
immersed in a lot of TV. And I will say we can get away with talking about some of this TV on the podcast. Some of this TV
Yeah, the way you
because
said TV. Oh man, yeah, it
yeah,
was...
yeah, you know, the lowest of the low, right? Um, but like, cause a lot of like TV right now is like big budget, like long movies, and Severance is basically that.
Yeah.
And some of the shows I'm considering TV are really just long form movies, and you could consider to a degree cinema. Um, uh, the first one would be, man, I'm just like trying to wrap my head around all the shows I've been watching, but the like for instance, I'm following Barry right now week to week because it just came
Mm.
back. And I will say yesterday's episode featured some acting by Mr. Bill Hader that was of some of the finest acting he has ever done since his SNL days, at least. Like, he's incredible, and like the layers of that they are going, like the places they are going now with his character, I did not predict at all, and it's just really good and weird, and I like it a lot. Yeah, so Barry would be one that I would say. It's very good. Another one that I'm watching right now, week to week, which I told you off the air, but I'll talk about it on the air because I actually have a lot to say about it. It is Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, with John C. Reilly and Jason Segel, and Adrian Brody playing Pat Riley. And
Oh
this
wow.
show is like so like a heightened version of what was going on, and like there's actually been a lot of like Jerry West and
I've seen
like
some of that.
Kareem. Yeah,
Yeah.
they are not happy with the show.
Yeah.
But I say fuck them because this show is great. And it's entertainment. It's not a documentary. They're not trying to be 100% factual here. It's like the show is supposed to be fun, and damn is it fun, and like it's very exciting. I look forward to it every week. Um, it's like definitely like not realistic at all and very dramatized, but like it's good, and it's like they kind of shoot it with this like film stock that kind of goes with like I don't know, the look of an 80s Los Angeles. And John C. Reilly's always like he's got like 3 buttons down playing Dr. Jerry Buss, and he's like got a cigar to drink always, and he's that like they go through like the rivalry with the Celtics and how it spawns, and like the guy who plays Larry Bird is like great and hilarious, like he's such an asshole in it. And like the guy who plays Kareem is like extra stoic always in it, and like the last episode had him showing like magic, like if you want to master the skyhook, you're going to be mastering the most elegant move in all of sports. And it's like also it's so big, and you're like, as a dude who's been a long time basketball nerd, I love it. I absolutely love it, and I look forward to it every week. It's been so fun. So highly recommend it. And then all right, and then the other show would be Atlanta, of course. Atlanta's back, and it's just as good as ever, and it's phenomenal. Yeah. So those 3 specifically, I'm very invested in at the moment.
3 shows I need to catch up with. I'm on season 1 of Barry now. I started watching that once I saw the new season was out. So
Yeah, cool. You should be able to finish that quickly. It's like short seasons, short episodes, that sort of
Yeah, I like
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm really liking that so far. But yeah, Winning Time is also on my list. And yeah, Atlanta, I feel like it's been out forever, and it always looks so cool in all the trailers. Everything I see of it looks so good. But yeah, I haven't gotten to that
Fantastic.
either.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, I think for my next one, I'm going with a movie I know you've seen. It's a very new movie. Came out a few weeks ago. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. The
Yeah,
Daniel
I
movie.
saw it on Monday. Yeah.
I just saw it a week and a half ago, something like that. And yeah, this is my favorite movie of the year so far. I really loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm sure by now most people, if haven't seen it, have at least heard a decent
They
amount
know of
about
it
it.
for sure. Yeah. There's been
Yeah,
a lot of it's a heavily raved about film.
yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that's earned. I don't know. I really loved it. Thought it was just another, again, really unique movie. And I was a little skeptical just because I'm kind of tired of, like, I hate the word multiverse at this point and stuff like
Yeah.
that, like buzzwords about movies nowadays. It gets kind of annoying. So I didn't want it to be like that. And now, having seen it, I want other people to go into it with an open mind, and to not, if they also have prejudice against multiverse or something like that. But yeah, I just thought overall too, a great family drama comedy. um Michelle Yeoh and what's her husband? He's the guy from the Goonies and Indiana Jones. Ke Kwan. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, Her husband, I feel he was so great in it too. And really, in the beginning, I was getting overwhelmed and caught off guard by everything.
Same. Hmm.
And I was worried that it would just be hard to just really follow what was happening. And then I just felt like over time, there's definitely a lot of repetition and everything. And I think that made it better for me. It made me just really start to slowly get a grasp on everything. And I feel like, major point of the movie is, nowadays, everything is everywhere all at once. Like, everything is, it's just like so much happening all the time, all at once. And I feel like um, that's just what life has become. And that was really all happening there in this moment where, they're talking about taxes, which, we just went through tax season, and that was incredible. That's always an
Yeah,
annoying,
yeah.
frustrating thing for everyone, and including ourselves. Like, taxes.
Hmm.
It's just annoying, and so to be in that moment, and then that's when everything starts off with this movie. I just thought it was really perfect. And yeah, and I've just been feeling overwhelmed with life in general,
Yeah.
and stuff, and thought that this was like the perfect movie to try and cope with that. And also thought it was just really, like, I don't know, I was getting really emotional during it too. Sort of these scenes where it's, the characters talk about how much better their lives seemed in another multiverse,
Right.
than
Yeah.
the one they're in. Um, and then there's that sweet moment. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, some nice moments at the end with family where um, they sort of come to terms where it's not necessarily about, all these great, amazing things that happen in your life, but the people and
Hmm.
family that you surround yourself with. So yeah, I thought it was, yeah, I don't know, I thought it was funny, ridiculous, weird, and it also really moved me in a lot of ways too. So yeah, uh, that's what I got to say about it. It's my favorite movie of the year so far, but I know you've seen it too.
Yeah, I found
So
that scene with the
steamroll.
rocks
Mm,
to be very therapeutic for sure.
likewise. Yeah.
Um, as someone who really worries about like every little thing that comes up in my like stupid life, like every minuscule thing
Mm-hmm.
and everything trying to be so orderly and perfect. And then also like having been someone who has had like has had resentment towards others about really just minuscule things in the grand scheme of things, but like just everyone goes around and we're all very selfish, and we take everything in the moment as oh my god, like the
Yeah.
world's falling when it's truly not. And I think the fact that the movie also like it just stops and it's quiet and there's that scenery and it's just you're reading words on a screen really helps you, like, as a viewer, you have that moment of clarity for sure.
Yeah.
um yeah.
And it's very
um
chaotic, and for the most part, the entire movie, and then
yeah, the rest of the movie is like a
yeah,
clusterfuck in
and then it's
comparison.
just yeah,
So I thought that scene was
stillness.
like brilliantly placed, and they're like, we're just gonna like shut the fuck up now
Mm-hmm.
and just like
Just be a rock.
appreciate this moment. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, I did not like all this movie. I like
Mm-hmm.
definitely thought it was like a little much at times and like be a little overly complicated for sure. Like when a movie's like being intentionally complicated is like part of its like the basis of it, like it's definitely all immediately not going to be like my thing totally. But I also can't like I can't like I don't know, I can't like ignore the fact that like this movie's like brilliantly constructed and edited um and unique, and that it has a lot to say. And like if someone thinks this is a masterpiece, like I'm not gonna go after them like at all. I don't care. Like it's just like definitely once like all um the multiverse stuff began, like I was immediately like, oh great, like here we go, like and they're like explain all the explaining how it works. That's not my thing either. um
Yeah, I guess
I
to
think I had the
me,
same thing to say about like Inception. I was like, oh yeah,
yeah.
like this whole thing has to be explained.
Yeah, there's definitely like when everything first starts, all the multiverse stuff starts, there's a lot of like very rapid exposition, mainly coming from the husband. Um, but to me, I don't know.
Yeah, the husband goes crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I could definitely see why. Like I've seen people's negative reviews of it, sort of saying all the repetition and just like too overly complicated and stuff. But I almost feel like for me, I felt like it was a good balance um, between like I think there's like the sweet, more grounded moments throughout that
Yeah, that like
especially
stop
towards
in
the
time,
end.
like we were
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, and in the alley when it's raining and it almost looks like in the mood for love. Um, Wong Kar Wai, like that all of those scenes too. So for me, it was sort of anytime it would be like wacky and crazy and chaotic, it would sort of bring me back in. And I felt like the exposition was, um, you know, more aware of itself. Like I almost felt like that was part of the adding to the chaos was there's a whole bunch of
Right.
nonsense. Like these multiverses are not like very carefully planned out or set anything like it's not like a Marvel type thing. It's all these are
No,
just like
definitely
crazy
not.
worlds, and I think and I saw the husband explaining all of this more as just more nonsense and not necessarily important to the plot, just sort of
Right, right, right.
yeah adding to it. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
can I
cool.
can definitely see how it could be grating and not for some people, but um, yeah, it's also getting a ton of praise right now too. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
As it should get praise.
Yeah, and
So
all
that's
I got to
your
say about
favorite.
it.
That's your favorite
Yeah.
movie of 2022. I'll go to mine now, because
Yeah.
I saw my favorite movie last week. I saw The Northman at the
All right.
AMC Burbank Dolby Digital Theater, which isn't it? I will tell you, is an incredible theater. If anyone's been there, they know exactly what I mean. The screen is huge. The sound is incredible. I was marveling at like the close-ups of like Willem Dafoe's face and just how big everything was. And I will say that The Northman is a movie that should be seen on the biggest screen possible, because that is part of it. Like The Northman is really like, unlike say like The Lighthouse, where you gotta like there's like a lot of shit to figure out. There really is not. Like The Northman's a very simple story, very simple, but like it's all about getting immersed in like this Iceland, Iceland setting, and like the culture of they're Vikings, right?
Yeah.
God, yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Vikings.
you,
Yeah.
the Vikings. But yeah, and so yeah, you're getting really immersed in that, and so everything is just it's just big. It like the costumes as usual in a Robert Eggers movie are amazing. It's incredible cinematography. Um, the movie has so much energy and like crazy fight scenes, and the camera work is insane all throughout. And like when I got out of the theater, I remember like walking outside, and I'm all of a sudden back in California, and I it really felt like, I don't know, for the first time in a while where I like the movie actually made me like feel like I left like where I
Mhm.
was, like I really felt like I was in that film, because it's just so good. And like from everything to immersing you in it, from sound and sound and cinematography, and every actor is great. Nicole Kidman has this insane scene. I don't know if you may have heard about it, but this
I don't
one
think so.
scene that you'll know when it hits you. It's this insane scene for acting wise, like one of the best acted scenes of the year for sure. And yeah, dude, The Northman is really good. It's
Sweet.
easily definitely the best of the year for me so far. Um, yeah,
Cool. I'm
met
excited
met
to
the
see it.
met the hype.
Yeah, this one is one I've been planning on getting to the theater to see sometime soon. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that.
Yeah, if you could see it in IMAX, I would recommend that. Or like just like if they have whatever the nice theater is at the theater you go to, try to go to that,
Mhm.
because this thing needs you need to.
Nice. Yeah, we got an IMAX pretty close by. Maybe hopefully they'll have it. I assume they
There
will,
you
but
go.
yeah. All right, cool. Um, all right, I think I'm good for one more.
All right, that works.
Okay, cool. Unless you got some more you want to get in there.
Not really. I think
Okay,
I'm good too.
this last one will be kind of short, but not that doesn't mean it's a bad one. But yeah, I know I think you've seen this as well. The other day, for some reason, I felt like watching a horror movie and I picked The House of the Devil, the Ty West movie.
I watched that like so long ago, but I remember it was scary as fuck.
Yeah, really scary.
Right?
I watched it
Scary
in the
as
daytime.
fuck. Good idea,
Yeah,
man. Whew.
in the daytime while like doing some, I don't know, just chores around the house, cooking and stuff. But yeah, I really liked House of the Devil. House of the Devil? Yeah, House of the Devil. Um, it it has this great like 70s or 80s horror movie aesthetic to it. And oh my god, the um I just thought it might be like a fun mindless horror movie to watch. But then the opening credits looks so cool with the great font and all these the girl, I don't know if you remember, the girl's just sort of like walking through the town, and she turns and it freezes on her. It says, you know, uh, whoever, Tom Cruise, whoever, the act, like just going through all the actors' names and everything. And then she walks down, she like does this, and it pauses, and I don't know, it's just, uh,
I don't
I
remember that, but now you make me want to rewatch it just to see that. Yeah.
I can totally get hooked in on a great opening credit sequence. And this one, right away, I had no idea it was going to be, like the 70s, 80s type of movie until then. And then I was like all in. I was like, yeah, this looks cool. I'm in it just for the style. I'm sure it'll be a little bit scary, but I don't even, even if the story isn't that great, just the style alone will make it an enjoyable experience. But yeah, the story is great too. It's got to do with satanic cults and this house that it's in the name, House of the Devil, so you can kind of put two and two together. And I think it's a great slow burn, atmospheric horror movie. In a way, it reminded me of Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's a great watch. Then there's also just some great shots that look like they're in like a Hitchcock movie or something, or
Right.
Even Halloween or something. Just she's walking up the stairs, and like it's just, you just see the silhouette of her and her shadow, and she's holding a knife, and yeah, it's just, I'm not gonna say too much more, but yeah, cool
Yeah, I
movie.
wish I remembered more of this so I could riff with you on it, but I really don't remember at all. I
Yeah,
pretty sure I watched it like one Halloween during the day, and I just remember it being like so like in the middle. I probably watched like four horror films that day, and House of the
yeah,
Devil happened to be one of them. And so it got lost in that. But I remember it being like for sure one of the scarier ones I had watched that day. Just like
yeah,
I remember just the lighting of it being a big contribution of that house. The house just
yeah,
itself being terrifying.
yeah. The atmosphere the entire time is very, very creepy, and then towards the end it gets really scary and graphic and gory, that it was like
Yeah.
legitimately hard to watch, but in a scary way. So it was, uh yeah. um it came out in 2009, so I didn't realize it had been out that long, but yeah, makes sense that you
Yeah,
wouldn't
that is an
remember it too
older
well.
movie than I
Over
thought.
10 years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, nice. Nothing like a horror, really scary movie in May.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be a great Halloween watch. I'll definitely rewatch it around then.
All right. My final film will be The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent because we did the Nick
Fitting.
Cage episode last week just for this movie. So I might as well talk about it since I
Yeah,
saw it. Even though I will say did not like it that much. I liked it. Um, but I think I wished it was definitely better for sure because like the premise of the movie got me very excited. I'll say it gets it gets more unoriginal for me as it went on.
mm,
Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff to like for sure. Um, and like I like Pedro Pascal and his chemistry with Nicolas Cage. I always love Pedro Pascal. And there's just a lot of funny scenes of Nick Cage, like we were talking about with BoJack Horseman. We're relating the
yeah.
movie to BoJack Horseman and Californication and the Lego Movie,
And the
um,
Lake House,
and the Lake House.
bringing it back again.
Yep. And Nicolas Cage plays a very self-loathing Nicolas Cage because he's not going to work in the industry anymore. He's not getting the parts he wants, and so he has to go to Pedro Pascal's place and be paid to be there for like his birthday, and then he ends up, Pedro Pascal ends up pitching like a script to Nick Cage that they end up like writing together, and then Nick Cage ends up being a spy because Pedro Pascal is a criminal, and there's all this stuff, and through all that, it kind of fell out of it for me because it just became more unoriginal for me as it went on, and plus the humor is a little unoriginal for me as well as it goes on. Not to say that the audience in the theater I saw this with I could tell was just eating everything up. So it's definitely like there's an appeal for it, but I also will make the argument, and this is a very pretentious argument, but that it's just because the movie is kind of dumbed down, it's easier for audiences to follow and understand. And maybe for someone who is superior like me is boring and
You'll never see this in the Criterion collection.
You won't see this in the early John Ford collection, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, there's not going to be an early Tom Gormican collection anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I'm happy I saw it. It's fun to see in the theater. It'll make you feel happy about liking movies because Nick Cage is all in it. Like, I like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It's one of my favorite all-time films, you know, and stuff like that. And yeah, and like, you know, they like at the end. No, I won't say that. It's a spoiler.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of like movie talk in it, and you know, which I always like, and it is cool overall that something like it got made because it is a crazy thing to get made. Just overall, I wasn't into it the whole way through, I would say.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't been like as excited to go ahead and see this in the theaters. Not as much as the Northman.
Yeah, I would not say it's the Northman. Yeah,
Northman.
I wouldn't say it's a must-see in the theater. Definitely, I definitely wouldn't say that.
Can't even think of the name of the one that I would rather see. But yeah,
I just don't want to leave my house at all.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to see anything. But I'm looking at my Letterboxd, and out of everyone I follow on Letterboxd, the highest rating it has is 3.5 stars. And there's some 2s and 1s in there.
That's what I would rate it around too. I know people are, there's some Letterboxders out there that I'm sure 5-star in it, and I definitely don't see that at all. I think this is definitely a flawed movie. But I will say, I won't say it's a bad movie necessarily, but a flawed movie.
And this is only speculative since I haven't seen it. But I feel like there are people who, and I know we just did a whole episode on Nick Cage, but people who, just because it's Nick Cage,
right,
and they're obsessed with the character of Nick Cage, that they would just think it's amazing because of him.
And people love when something is very obviously meta, is like being obviously meta. Like, it's why Deadpool shot off, you know. They're like, oh, I love how he speaks directly to the audience. That's so bold, like, to do.
Self-aware.
in a Marvel film.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, but like, it's interesting that, like, I don't know, like a movie like this can gain such like wide appeal. I think it's cool because like, even though Nick Cage has that, you know, big following, like, as we've said, he's been in a lot of weird films lately that I'm sure not a lot of people did see, you know. So yeah, like, I think the film was marketed well, and I don't know what it made at the box office or anything, but I'm sure it did do well. We don't really do the box office ever.
We don't do numbers on here. Yeah.
No, we definitely don't.
We're not interested in the business side of things.
My number 5 is.
Now, those are numbers I can get on board with. Yeah. Only 1 through 5 or 1 through 10. That's all we need. Sometimes 1 through 30. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Well, I'm glad you saw it so we could talk about it on our episode, our follow-up episode to the
Might
cage
as well,
match.
or might as well,
Yeah.
rather than us saying, you know, I actually don't want to see that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's good we could end on a couple of 2022
Yeah,
movies, some new movies.
for sure. It's been a
And
good year for sure, and I've especially since I have AMC stubs and
oh,
like I
nice.
go to the movies a good amount. Yeah, it's a motivating factor because I just, you know, it's like, you know, subscription and it's pretty good. Like, you know,
Hmm.
I think Movie Pass, it's like what Movie Pass was back in the day. Like you
Yeah.
only have to use it like if you go to the movies once, it pays for itself, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I used to
So
have
yeah,
that for Cinemark, which is a similar thing too. Now it seems like
nice. Yeah.
every theater's trying their own thing like that.
Right. Yeah,
So
it's
yeah.
cool and it motivates you to go because like if I don't know, I'm just like so unmotivated sometimes that I'll go months without going to the movies. And I would say since I've had this, I definitely go more for sure. And like it helps because
Hmm.
if you go to the movies with people, they like invite you to their like, you know, they get the ticket for you if you're a member, and
Oh
then
yeah.
they call it like the entourage. So they're like, this person just invited you to be in their entourage, you know? So that's
Wow.
cool.
That's cool. I
I
haven't
know
seen that.
it's good. It's really good to feel like you're a part of something. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
I love entourages. I'd love to be a part of one someday.
Oh yeah.
uh, Michael
But yeah,
Scott would
man,
definitely say that.
lot of
Yeah.
good ones this year. I will also say that I did see the Batman. Like every fucking person, I saw the Batman,
Likewise.
and that is good too.
It's already
It's
on
very
HBO Max too.
It is, right? But
That's
I
so
did see it in the
quick.
theater, and it's good to see in the theater because the it looks that's a really like well shot movie with a lot of like poetic imagery. I feel for a
Hmm.
Batman movie, and so yeah, I mean that was a long afternoon at the theater when I saw it. I will say, but you know, like
Oh yeah.
that thing just keeps going,
It's
like
so long. Yeah.
right? But what's funny is it kind of, and I've said this to people who brought it up with me. They, you know, it's like they could sold with me on it because I'm like the guy for this, but like I kind of think this movie is a little like Inherent Vice or something like that, or like The Big Sleep or The Long
Wow.
Goodbye, and how like it's endless noir-esque interactions and
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, isn't it? It's kind of
Yeah.
like that, and I
I didn't think
thought
about
that
that.
was really cool. I have nothing against the Batman. I have some stuff against the Batman like fans for sure. I think they need to chill a little bit, but I thought the Batman is good, is really fucking good, and I could tell like right away, like when the Batman began and like Robert Pattinson's like narration, he's like, "I go around the city," and I was like, "Oh, I can already tell this is gonna be really good, like for sure."
Yeah. They really they stepped up the darkness in
Yeah.
Batman too. Yeah.
Something in
Oh
the
yeah.
way. Ooh.
Yeah, isn't that a Nirvana song? That's like a
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Something in the way.
Super moody Batman. Yeah. Even more
Yeah,
so
yeah.
than usual. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I
Wow.
like the Batman. I also really like Michael Bay's Ambulance.
I
If
gotta see
I don't know
this
if
still.
Yeah, you got to see it. You got to go to the theater because that's a Michael Bay movie. You have to see a Michael Bay movie in the theater. And there's a
I hadn't
lot of
even
incredible drone footage in this film of Los Angeles. So, yeah, you should check it out for that.
I've like hardly heard anything about this until like a few weeks ago. I started seeing it everywhere and I heard nothing like in lead up to it. So yeah, I'm
Wow.
bummed about that. So I'm late to the party on ambulance, but
Yeah, I mean, it
yeah.
may have left already. So
Mm.
you might have missed it because fucking like yeah, I don't know if it was in there last weekend or the weekend before, and the like Doctor Strange Sam Raimi movie comes out this week.
Yeah.
So like that thing's gonna take up all the theaters.
Yeah, that'll do probably more than what the Nick Cage movie did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the numbers are.
Yeah, whatever those numbers are, someone's crunching the numbers and it's not us.
Right.
All right, yeah. Well, there goes another movie bender episode.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that excitement. We'll be back soon with some more episodes, some new content.
Jurassic Park, in fact.
Jurassic Park's coming up. Yeah, because the new Jurassic World's coming out.
The new Jurassic World that looks just oh so great with all those beautiful images of the dinosaurs running free.
Oh yeah.
In the the great CGI, man, I will say.
Can't wait. Yeah.
So we're gonna cover Jurassic Park because Sam Neill is back and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum's still in there being weird as fuck, with his new costume thing, doing whatever it is he's doing. And but producer Jake will be back for Jurassic Park because not to hype anything up, but Jake and I know the shit out of Jurassic Park, and we're gonna go to town talking about it.